Nxivm was an American cult that engaged in sex trafficking, forced labor and racketeering, while claiming to be a multi-level marketing company. Based in Clifton Park, New York, a suburb of Albany, the group claimed to offer personal and professional development seminars through its executive success programs of large group awareness training. The company has been widely described as a cult and was shown in court to have been a recruiting platform for a secret society called DOS, in which women were branded and forced into sexual slavery. In early 2018, Nxivm's founder, Keith Raniere, and his associate, actress Allison Mack, were arrested and indicted on federal charges related to DOS, including sex trafficking. Others associated with Nxivm were also charged with federal crimes. As of April 2019, 5 people associated with Nxivm, Mack, Nxivm co-founder Nancy Saltzman, Lauren Saltzman, Nxivm's Claire Bronfman, and bookkeeper Kathy Russell, had pleaded guilty to various charges. Raniere was convicted in federal court of sex trafficking and racketeering on June 19, 2019. On September 30, 2020, Claire Bronfman became the first defendant sentenced in the case, when she was ordered to serve 6 years and 9 months in federal prison. After Raniere's conviction, he continued to direct loyalists from behind bars, encouraging continued recruitment. At his direction, members of the group have regularly danced outside Raniere's jail and staged coordinated protests of individual prosecutors. In September 2020, it was estimated about 50 to 60 people remained very loyal to Raniere. Raniere was sentenced to 120 years in prison in October 2020. History. Before founding Nxivm, Raniere created Consumers Byline, a business venture that the New York Attorney General accused of having been a pyramid scheme. Raniere signed a consent order in 1996 in which he denied any wrongdoing but agreed to pay a $40,000 fine and to be permanently banned from promoting, offering or granting participation in a chain distribution scheme. Founding and initial success. In 1998, Raniere and Nancy Saltzman founded Nxivm, a personal development company offering executive success programs and a range of techniques for self-improvement. Raniere claimed that the program's main emphasis is to have people experience more joy in their lives. During Nxivm seminars, students were expected to call Raniere and Saltzman Vanguard and Prefect, respectively. The Hollywood Reporter wrote that Raniere adopted the title Vanguard from a favorite arcade game, in which the destruction of one's enemies increased one's own power. Within the organization, the reasoning for the titles was that Raniere was the leader of a philosophical movement and Saltzman was his first student. By 2003, 3,700 people had taken part in ESP classes, reportedly including businesswoman Sheila Johnson, former Surgeon General Antonio Novello, Enron executive Stephen Cooper, and Ana Cristina Fox, daughter of former Mexican President Vicente Fox. Other participants were reported to include entrepreneur Richard Branson, who denied having taken the classes, Edgar Bronfman Sr., and actresses Linda Evans, Grace Park, and Nikki Klein. In the early 2000s, Nxivm's Claire and Sarah Bronfman, daughters of Edgar Bronfman Sr., became attached to the organization. Cult allegations. In early 2000s, Nxivm's training is a trade secret, subject to non-disclosure agreements, but reportedly uses a technique the organization calls rational inquiry to facilitate personal and professional development. In 2003, Nxivm sued the Ross Institute in the case known as Nxivm Corporation v. Ross Institute, alleging copyright infringement for publishing excerpts of content from its manual and 3 critical articles commissioned by cult investigator Rick Allen Ross and posted on his website. Ross posted a psychiatrist's assessment of Nxivm's secret manual on his website that called the regimen expensive brainwashing. Ross obtained the manual from former member Stephanie Franco, a co-defendant in the trial, who had signed a non-disclosure agreement not to divulge information from the manual to others. Nxivm filed suits in both New York and New Jersey, but both were dismissed. On appeal, the United States Court of Appeals for the Second Circuit affirmed the lower court's dismissal, ruling that the defendant's critical analysis of material obtained in bad faith, i.e. in violation of a non-disclosure agreement, was fair use since the secondary use was transformative as criticism and was not a potential replacement for the original on the market. In October 2003, Forbes magazine published an article on Nxivm and Raniere. Vanity Fair magazine subsequently reported of the article. People at Nxivm were stunned. Expecting a positive story, the top ranks had spoken to Forbes, including Raniere, Saltzman, and Sarah Bronfman. What upset them above all were Edgar Bronfman's remarks. "I think it's a cult," he told the magazine, going on to say that he was troubled about the emotional and financial investment in Nxivm by his daughters, to whom he had not spoken in months. In 2006, Forbes published an article about the Bronfman sisters, stating that they had taken out a line of credit to loan Nxivm $2 million, repayable through personal training sessions and phone consultations with Saltzman. Another Forbes article in 2010 discussed the failures of commodities and real estate deals by the Bronfmans made on Raniere's advice. 2006-2015 After actress Kristen Kreuk became involved with Nxivm in 2006, Saltzman and her daughter Lauren went to Vancouver, British Columbia, to recruit Kreuk's Smallville co-star Allison Mack. The younger Saltzman, Lauren, herself a junior Nxivm leader, bonded with Mack, and the latter became lovers, though Kreuk subsequently left Nxivm. Mack became an enthusiastic proselytizer for Nxivm, persuading her parents to take courses, and, after wrapping production of Smallville in 2011, moved to Clifton Park, New York, to be near Nxivm's home base in Albany. In 2008, the Bronfman sisters allegedly pressured Stephen Hurwitz, a confidant of their father, to ask Albany County District Attorney David Soares, New York Governor Eliot Spitzer, and New Jersey Attorney General Ann Milgram to begin criminal investigations into Nxivm's critics. Nxivm reportedly kept dossiers on Soares, Spitzer, political consultant Roger Stone, U.S. Senator Chuck Schumer, and Albany Times Union publisher George Randolph Hearst III in a box in the basement of Nancy Saltzman's home. According to the Times Union, Nxivm developed a reputation for aggressively pursuing critics and defectors who broke from its ranks, including using litigation to punish critics of Raniere, the organization, or its training methods. The World Ethical Foundation's Consortium, an organization co-founded by Raniere and the Bronfman sisters, sponsored a visit to Albany by the Dalai Lama in 2009. The visit was initially cancelled by the Dalai Lama owing to negative press about Nxivm, but was rescheduled. The Dalai Lama spoke at Albany's Palace Theatre in May 2009. In 2017, Lama Tenzin Dundon, the self-styled personal emissary for peace for the Dalai Lama who had arranged the appearance, was suspended from his position amid corruption charges. The investigation also revealed a personal relationship between Dundon and Sarah Bronfman, which began in 2009. Nxivm has been described as a pyramid scheme, a sex trafficking operation, a cult, and a sex cult. In a 2010 Times Union article, former Nxivm coaches characterized students as prey for Raniere's sexual or gambling-related proclivities. Kristen Keefe, a longtime partner of Raniere and mother of his child, left the group in 2014 and called Raniere dangerous, saying, "ALL the worst things you know about Nxivm are true." In 2014, Raniere founded the Nxivm-affiliated news organization The Knife of Aristotle, later known as The Knife and The Knife Media. The Knife of Aristotle was subsequently described as a fake news website and a cult. The organization also reportedly hired journalists in an attempt to gain media support and solicit new members to Nxivm, as well as fabricating staff members. Media investigations of DOS, starting with reports by investigative journalist Frank Parlato in June 2017 and bolstered by an October 2017 article in the New York Times. Details began to emerge about Dominos Obsequious Sororium, a secret sisterhood that started in 2015 within Nxivm, in which female members were allegedly called slaves, branded with the initials of Raniere and Mac, subjected to corporal punishment from their masters, and required to provide nude photos or other potentially damaging information about themselves as collateral. Law enforcement representatives have alleged that DOS members were forced into sexual slavery. Sarah Edmondson, a Canadian actress who had been an ESP participant since 2005, said that she left Nxivm after Mac inducted her into DOS the previous March at her Albany home. Edmondson alleged that participants were blindfolded naked, held down by Mac and 3 other women, and branded by Nxivm affiliate Dr. Danielle Roberts, using a cauterizing pen. Appearing on an A&E television program about cults, Edmondson provided additional context for the use of the collateral concept, saying that it was used in innocuous forms from the earliest, outermost stages of Nxivm in order to acclimate victims. For example, collateralizing small amounts of money that one might forfeit if one did not go to the gym one day. The Times later reported that hundreds of members left Nxivm after Edmondson went public about her experience. On December 15, 2017, the ABC News Magazine 2020 aired an expose including interviews with many former Nxivm adherents, including Edmondson and Catherine Oxenberg, who alleged that her daughter, India Oxenberg, was in danger due to the group. Several former members reported financial and sexual predation by Nxivm leaders. Edmondson further appeared in Escaping Nxivm during the first season of the CBC podcast Uncover. 7 socially prominent Mexicans, including Emilio Salinas Exceli, son of former President Carlos Salinas de Gortari, and Ana Cristina Fox, daughter of former President Vicente Fox, Rosa Laura Junco, Lorita Garza Davila, a business leader from Nuevo Leon, Daniela Padilla, Camila, and Monica Duran, have been accused of involvement. Criminal prosecutions and convictions. In March 2018, Raniere was arrested and indicted on charges related to DOS, including sex trafficking conspiracy, and conspiracy to commit forced labor. He was arrested in Mexico and held in custody in New York after appearing in federal court in Fort Worth, Texas. The indictment alleged that at least one woman was coerced into sex with Raniere, who forced DOS members to undergo the branding ritual alleged by Edmondson and others. United States Attorney Richard Donahue stated that Raniere created a secret society of women whom he had sex with and branded with his initials, coercing them with the threat of releasing their highly personal information and taking their assets. On April 20, 2018, Mac was arrested and indicted on similar charges to Raniere's. According to prosecutors, after she recruited women into first Nxivm and then DOS, Mac coerced them into engaging in sexual activity with Raniere and performing menial tasks, for which Raniere allegedly paid her. Mac was further alleged to be Nxivm's second-in-command after Raniere. On April 24, Mac was released on $5 million bond pending trial and held under house arrest with her parents in California. On May 4, Raniere pleaded not guilty. Soundsman's home was raided shortly after Raniere's arrest, and prosecutors stated during his arraignment that further arrests and a superseding indictment for Raniere and Mac should be expected. In late May, authorities moved to seize 2 Nxivm-owned properties near Albany. In April 2018, the New York Post reported that Nxivm had moved to Brooklyn, New York, and was being led by Claire Bronfman. On June 12, 2018, the Times-Union reported that Nxivm had suspended its operations due to extraordinary circumstances facing the company. Bronfman was arrested on July 24 and charged with racketeering. She was released to house arrest after signing a $100 million bail bond. Also arrested and charged with the same crime were Nxivm president Nancy Saltzman, her daughter, Lauren Saltzman, and another Nxivm employee, Kathy Russell. On March 13, 2019, Nancy Saltzman pleaded guilty to a charge of racketeering criminal conspiracy. Also in March 2019, Lauren Saltzman pleaded guilty to racketeering and racketeering conspiracy. On April 8, 2019, Mack pleaded guilty to racketeering. On April 19, 2019, Bronfman pleaded guilty to charges of harboring an alien and identity fraud. Bookkeeper Russell also pleaded guilty to visa fraud. Ronier's federal trial began on May 7, 2019. On June 19, 2019, he was convicted of racketeering and sex trafficking. In January 2020, a federal lawsuit was filed in New York accusing Raniere and 14 associates of conducting illegal psychological experiments on members of the company and abusing them physically, emotionally and financially. On September 30, 2020, Judge Nicholas G. Garofis of the United States District Court for the Eastern District of New York sentenced Bronfman to 6 years and 9 months in federal prison. Her attorney promised to appeal, calling the sentence an abomination. Beliefs and practices. In Nxivm classes, rank was displayed through colored sashes, similar to colored belts in martial arts. Nxivm drew up a 12-point mission statement which participants recited during classes, pledging to purge themselves of all parasite and envy-based habits, to enroll others, and to ethically control as much of the money, wealth and resources of the world as possible within my success plan. Photographs of Raniere and Nancy Saltzman were displayed during classes, which would conclude with participants showing gratitude to the two leaders. Nxivm conducted intensives classes for 12 hours daily for 16 days. One cited price was $7,500. Classes were divided into modules. In one module, Relationship Sourcing, students were instructed to explore the benefits they would receive in the event of a partner's sudden death. Another module, Dracula and His Ghouls, reportedly discussed psychopaths and their followers. Other module titles included Best People, Perfect World, and The Heroic Struggle. During exploration of meaning sessions, senior members questioning participants as they delved into their childhood memories. Nxivm taught that some people, called suppressives, try to impede progress within Nxivm. People who irrevocably turned against Raniere were said to have undergone the fall and were labeled, in the words of a former member, as Luciferians, lost people for whom bad feels good, and good feels bad. Nxivm members organized Vanguard Week, an annual celebration of Raniere's birthday. Nxivm has been associated with several related organizations. JNES was a society aimed at women, while the Society of Protectors was aimed primarily at men. A third group was known by the acronym DOS, short for Dominus Obsequious Sororium, which, according to one member, means Master over Slave Women. In 2006, Raniere founded Rainbow Cultural Garden, an international chain of child care organizations in which children were to be exposed to 7 different languages. Some members of Nxivm's inner circle were reportedly taught that, in past lives, they were high-ranking Nazis. According to a complaint filed by a former Nxivm member, a medical doctor performed an experiment on her that involved recording her EEG responses while viewing footage of people being murdered. Brandon P. Porter, the doctor, faced 24 professional conduct charges from the New York State Board of the Office of Professional Medical Conduct, including moral unfitness to practice medicine. In August 2019, Porter's license was revoked for his role in the experiments and for his failure to report the possible outbreak of a norovirus at Nxivm's 2016 V-Week retreat. Nxivm teachings drew upon diverse influences, including Ayn Rand, parasites, L. Ron Hubbard, suppressives, Milton Erickson's hypnosis, Isaac Asimov's science fiction, Rudolf Steiner, Tony Robbins, and neuro-linguistic programming. Nxivm incorporated elements of multi-level marketing and practices from judo, with colored cloth for rank and bowing. Notable Nxivm participants: Edgar Boone, the scion of a wealthy family, introduced Nxivm to numerous affluent Mexicans, becoming head of Nxivm Mexico and rising to third in the Nxivm organization. Claire Bronfman, daughter of billionaire Seagram's chairman Edgar Bronfman Sr., was introduced to Nxivm by her sister Sarah. Claire Bronfman was arrested by federal agents on July 24, 2018, in New York City and charged with money laundering and identity theft in connection with Nxivm activities. She pleaded not guilty in the United States District Court for the Eastern District of New York in Brooklyn. She was released on $100 million bond and placed on house arrest with electronic monitoring. On April 19, 2019, Claire Bronfman pleaded guilty to conspiracy to conceal and harbor illegal aliens for financial gain and fraudulent use of identification. She faced 21 to 27 months in prison and has agreed to forfeit $6 million. On September 30, 2020, she was sentenced to 6 years, 9 months in prison by a federal judge. Sarah Bronfman, daughter of Edgar Bronfman Sr., was introduced to Nxivm by a family friend in 2002. Pam Caffords, daughter of Washington, D.C., socialite Buffy and William Caffords. Caffords was a founder of JNESS, a Rainier-affiliated women's group. Caffords was reported to be Rainier E's most important long-term girlfriend. On November 7, 2016, Pam Caffords died. After her death, her credit card was charged for over $300. Sunil Chakravorty, a software developer, remained among Rainier's post-conviction followers, dancing outside the jail where Rainier is confined. Nikki Clyne is a Canadian actress known for her role on the series Battlestar Galactica. According to reports, in 2006, Clyne became involved with Nxivm. She married fellow senior member Allison Mack in 2017. The marriage was alleged to have been a sham to evade United States immigration laws. After Rainier's conviction, Clyne and others began dancing nightly outside the detention center containing Rainier. Allison Mack is an American actress known for her role on the series Smallville. Mack was reportedly recruited to the Vancouver chapter of Nxivm, along with her Smallville co-star Kristen Krieg. Mack was reportedly a founder of DOS, a Rainier-affiliated master-slaves group. Mack was arrested on April 20, 2018, on charges of sex trafficking conspiracy, and forced labor conspiracy. Mack pleaded guilty to racketeering charges in April 2019, and was to be sentenced in September 2019. However, on July 15, 2019, the senior U.S. District Judge Nicholas Garofis postponed the sentencing until further notice to allow federal probation officials to conduct pre-sentencing investigations. Brandon Porter, M.D., a medical doctor, conducted unlicensed human subjects research on 200 people for Nxivm. During a fright study, Porter exposed subjects to disturbing videos, including actual footage of a decapitation. In 2016, Porter was present at an Nxivm retreat, V-Week, where 300 to 400 individuals were struck by an unidentified disease. Porter failed to report the outbreak, in violation of his duties as a licensed medical doctor. Porter was stripped of his medical license in 2020. Keith Rainier, born August 26, 1960, is the founder of Nxivm. In March 2018, Raniere was arrested and indicted on a variety of charges related to DOS, a secret sisterhood within Nxivm, including sex trafficking conspiracy, and conspiracy to commit forced labor. He was found guilty of all charges at trial. On October 27, 2020, Raniere was sentenced to 120 years in prison. Danielle Roberts, D.O., an osteopathic physician, gained notoriety for having used a cauterizing pen to brand 13 women in connection with the group known as DOS. In 2020, New York Board of Medical Conduct began an investigation into Roberts. A year later it brought charges against her which could result in the revocation of her license. After Raniere's conviction, Roberts was among the dancers outside the jail in which he was incarcerated. Emilio Salinas is a venture capitalist and businessman. He is the son of former Mexican President Carlos Salinas de Gortari. Salinas served as vice president of Priersus Capital, a financial consortium with ties to Raniere and Nxivm. Nancy Saltzman, a psychiatric nurse and trained practitioner of hypnotism and neuro-linguistic programming, met Raniere in 1998. The two founded Executive Success Programs, a personal development company offering a range of techniques aimed at self-improvement. In March 2019, Saltzman pleaded guilty to racketeering. Karen A. Unterreiner is a member who became Raniere's live-in partner beginning in the 1980s and an early employee of his company Consumers Byline. Critical former members Barbara Bouchy was a client of Nancy Saltzman, having been referred to her in 1988. Beginning in 2000, Bouchy dated Raniere. In 2009, Bouchy and 8 other women, the Nxivm-9, confronted Raniere with concerns about abuse within the organization. That year, Bouchy left the group and later went to law enforcement. Sarah Edmondson is a Canadian actress. After leaving Nxivm in early 2017, she publicly denounced the organization, claiming that she was invited into DOS, a substructure within Nxivm operated by Keith Raniere and Allison Mack, and was branded with a combination of Raniere's and Mack's initials at Mack's Albany home. Edmondson showed the brand in a New York Times expose of Nxivm. Kristen Keefe became Raniere's partner in the early 1990s. In 2013, Keefe gave birth to Raniere's son Galen. In February 2014, Keefe broke with Raniere and his group. Fleeing the region with her son, an email bearing Keefe's name explained, "I have full sole legal custody of Galen. Keith was experimenting on him. I had to get Galen away." Keefe publicly described Raniere as dangerous. In 2015, Keefe alleged that Nxivm leaders had planned to lure critics to Mexico with an invitation to an anti-cult conference. Once in Mexico, the critics were to be arrested on false charges by order of a judge who had been bribed. Tony Natalie met Raniere in 1991 when he was pitching his business Consumers Byline. Natalie and her then-husband became top sellers for the organization. Natalie recalled that she was able to stop smoking after a 2-hour session with Raniere. Greater than Natalie and her son later moved to be near Raniere. Her marriage ended shortly thereafter. Natalie and Raniere dated for the next 8 years. In the mid-90s, Raniere and Natalie operated a health products store. In 1999, Raniere's 8-year relationship with Natalie ended. Natalie would subsequently claim to have been the victim of harassment. In a January 2003 ruling, federal judge Robert Littlefield implied Raniere was using a legal suit to harass Natalie. Wrote Littlefield, "This matter smacks of a jilted fellow's attempts at revenge or retaliation against his former girlfriend, with many attempts at tripping her up along the way." In 2011, Natalie filed documents in federal court alleging that she had been repeatedly raped by Raniere. Joseph J. O'Hara was an attorney who departed Nxivm in 2005 after accusing the group of misdeeds. In 2007, O'Hara was indicted by Albany County. It was later revealed that the district attorney had allowed Raniere's girlfriend Kristen Keefe to operate within its office as a sort of victim's advocate. Charges were ultimately dismissed. India Oxenberg, daughter of actress Catherine Oxenberg, was introduced to the group in 2011. At Rainier E's trial, a witness testified that India had spent a year on a 500-calorie-per-day diet. In May 2017, India admitted to her mother that she was among those who had been branded. India left the group in June 2018, after Rainier E's arrest. In August 2018, Catherine Oxenberg's book Captive, A Mother's Crusade to Save Her Daughter from a Terrifying Cult was published. Mark Vicente, a filmmaker known for the 2004 film What the Bleep Do We Know?, began involvement with the group in 2005. Vicente testified against Rainier at his 2019 trial. Journalist and blogger James Odato is an investigative reporter who wrote for the Albany Times-Union. In 2012, Odato reported Rainier E's history of pedophilia. In October 2013, Odato was named in a lawsuit filed by Nxivm, along with Susanna Andrews of Vanity Fair and blogger John J. Ty. All had written critically of the group. The suit alleged that Nxivm computers had been illegally accessed. Shortly thereafter, Odato was described as being on leave from the Times-Union. Frank Parlato was hired by Nxivm in 2007 to help with publicity. After concluding that Nxivm members were being defrauded by Rainier, Parlato began blogging about the group on his sites Art Voice, The Niagara Falls Reporter, and The Frank Report. Rick Allen Ross is the executive director of the Ross Institute, which specializes in studying cults. Ross received a copy of an Nxivm training manual and published portions of it on his website. In Nxivm Corporation v. Ross Institute, Nxivm sued to try to block further publications. Courts ruled in favor of Ross. John Ty wrote about Nxivm on a blog. In 2013, Nxivm accused Ty of illegally accessing Nxivm servers using a former member's login information. Ty's home was raided by the New York State Police, and his computer was seized. Films, documentaries and books. Investigation Discovery released a 2-hour special, The Lost Women of Nxivm. HBO released a docuseries about Nxivm titled The Vow. It premiered on August 23, 2020. Starz released a docuseries about Nxivm titled Seduced, Inside the Nxivm Cult. It premiered on October 18, 2020. Catherine Oxenberg produced a film for Lifetime about her daughter's experiences with Nxivm. It is titled Escaping the Nxivm Cult, A Mother's Fight to Save Her Daughter, and aired on September 21, 2019. While Catherine Oxenberg served as the narrator and executive producer, the film starred Andrea Roth as Catherine Oxenberg, Peter Fasinelli as Keith Rainier, and Sarah Fletcher as Allison Mack. The program, Inside the Mind of Keith Rainier and the Rise and Fall of Nxivm, is a book by Tony Natalie and Chet Hardin, released on September 24, 2019. Scarred: The True Story of How I Escaped Nxivm, The Cult That Bound My Life by Sarah Edmondson is a book set that was released on September 17, 2019. Nxivm was the subject on an episode E! True Hollywood Story, comprising interviews from several journalists and the people that were once involved with the organization, including Catherine Oxenberg, Sarah Edmondson, and actor and Oxenberg's real-life friend Callum Blue. Canadian Broadcasting Corporation released a podcast in 2018 on Nxivm as part of CBC Season 1 of the series Uncover. NBC aired a Dateline special on February 26, 2021, featuring an interview with Keith Rainier. CNBC aired an episode of American Greed titled Nightmare at Nxivm on January 25, 2021. Nxivm. After Rainier E's conviction beginning in July 2020, at least 6 Nxivm loyalists were organizing dance protests outside the detention center which houses Rainier. Operating under the name We Are As You, dancers included actor Nikki Klein and branding Dr. Danielle Roberts. While incarcerated, Rainier has maintained his leadership role over Nxivm, regularly communicating with his followers by phone. Raniere instructed his followers to solicit the assistance of Alan Dershowitz, the attorney who successfully negotiated a non-prosecution agreement of the late Jeffrey Epstein. Raniere gave false names of people he was allegedly calling to prison officials, and call recipients employed burner phones in an attempt to avoid detection. In one instance, Raniere instructed a follower to get scrutiny on the judge in his case, explaining that the judge needs to know he's being watched. References: external links: website of Keith Raniere, 3 critical articles pertaining to the Nxivm Ross Institute lawsuit, Times Union special report on Nxivm, We Are the Forgotten Ones.org, redirect target of weareasu.com, website for Raniere followers who demonstrate outside of his detention center.